Welcome to Friday Night Lights, live from Montour High School. It is the WPIAL Playoffs 2024. Glad you could join us here on Oneberg, on our Oneberg Facebook channel, Oneberg YouTube, or maybe you're listening back on our Spotify channel. We are live here at Montour High School, where tonight in a Class 4A quarterfinal matchup, it'll be the Mars Fighting Planets, the number 7 seed, visiting the number 2 seed, the Montour Spartans. We'll have the call on the Trip Live High School Sports Network at 7 o'clock with Greg Smith and Kyle Dawson and myself. And guys, we've talked about the last few weeks. You know it's playoff time because the temperature has changed. It's officially cold, Kyle.
It's a lot colder than it has been all season long. It has been unseasonably warm the entire season. And, of course, week one of the postseason, it's going to be 40 degrees by the end of the night. But it should be a good football game here, and there are a bunch of good ones slated around the area.
Greg, you were making fun of me last week up at Beaver. I was freezing because we did the game outside all night. Tonight, I was smart. I wore a hoodie. I wore some extra clothes.
Yeah, and last week was actually pretty warm, I think, in comparison. Tonight it is a little chillier, although I will admit for the first week of November, still pretty decent outside. Not too bad for Western Pennsylvania. Hopefully the weather doesn't have an impact on all those games that Kyle talked about.
Guys, we normally talk about the top 5 matchups across the WPIL. Well, there's way more than 5 tonight. All 6 classifications, 5 out of the 6 classifications getting started tonight. 6A will start next week in their semifinal round already, or 2 weeks rather. Everybody else underway tonight for the most part. So I thought maybe what we would do as a change, we just go bracket by bracket and talk about the top teams and ultimately pick who we think is going to win. So we'll start in Class Single A, where Fort Cherry is the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, the Clarendon Bears. The number 3 seed is Bishop Canevin, and number 4 is Neshannock. You got Fort Cherry and Neshannock on one side of the bracket. Meanwhile, Clarendon and Bishop Canevin on the other side of the bracket. We'll start with you, Greg. Who do you like out of this bracket? Are there any teams I didn't mention? Jefferson Morgan's undefeated. Yep. They've had a great year. And any thoughts on the Class 1A?
Yeah, getting Jefferson Morgan into that second round to likely face Bishop Canevin, all respect to Bentworth in that 3-14 matchup. But interesting to see on that side of the bracket, if Clarendon and Bishop Canevin do their work, I know that's a game those two teams have seen each other already this year. Two teams that have had a lot of success in the recent history. That'll be an interesting one. I heard you and Mike White talking earlier this week on Oneberg. Neshannock, don't forget about the Lancers up in Lawrence County. Definitely a team to work with. But I think the big question is who's going to stop Matt Sieg in Fort Cherry, right? One of the top players in the WPIL, regardless of classifications. Can anybody find a way to stop him, assuming that they do their business and get to Acrisure Stadium?
Yeah, top 4 in this classification have been really good all year. It's the Canevin, Clarendon. Clarendon, get this, a couple of weeks ago, allowed its first defensive touchdown all year. That's ridiculous, and it happened in like week 7. But Matt Sieg and the Fort Cherry Rangers, coming off their championship last year in the district, they have another chance to win it again this year, and he did it for half the year with one arm. Right. And I'm not kidding. He did it with one arm for half the year. I think Fort Cherry's a team to beat, but Clarendon a really good team. And don't sleep on the Neshannock. And I can never go on any podcast, anything, without shouting out the Tri-County South. Good luck to Jefferson Morgan tonight with their undefeated record, but that Southside Rams team can play a little bit as well.
I think it's the first time Jeff Morgan went undefeated since like 1978.
It's been a while.
That's definitely before you two were born. And it just happens to be before I was born, so you know it was a long time ago. Class 2A, guys, the top seed, Seton LaSalle. Number 2, Greg Smith's South Park Eagles. We'll let him talk about that in a little bit. Elwood City is the 3rd seed. Number 4, Still Valley. Kyle, Class 2A, a pretty talented bracket. There's some other talented teams in there, too. Yeah. South Allegheny, Western Beaver being a couple of the others.
Yeah, you talk about Jefferson Morgan. It's been a while since success. Elwood City can say the same exact thing in 2A. But Greg and I, he knows South Park. I saw him earlier this year against South Allegheny. I've also seen Seton LaSalle. I think those are 2 really good football teams at the number 1 and number 2 spots in 2A. 2A should be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens in this bracket.
I would love nothing more than to see an Old Century Conference showdown between Seton LaSalle and South Park, taking me back to my days. go Eagles there. Certainly, I think South Park and their rushing attack, one to deal with here in 2A. Another shout out for another team in 2A. Let's not forget about Carlinton into the playoffs for the first time since 2001.
Right.
Shout out to Carlinton to getting into there. A big matchup. Our friend Mitch Montani has that one tomorrow against Western Beaver. Western Beaver, though, a team to watch out for. And watch out for Steel Valley, a number 4 seed here. Steel Valley always, if they can find the rhythm, that's a really talented football team as well in 2A. A lot of parity out there, but certainly I'm going to root for South Park selfishly, but there's a lot of good options there for anybody.
Steel Valley features the Barksdale brothers. Donald Barksdale having a huge year for Steel Valley. It's so cold out here. I licked my finger to go to the next page. It might have froze. Let's go to Class 3A, gentlemen. The number 1 seed, Amani Christian. Number 2, Central Valley, who Greg we saw earlier this year. Elizabeth Forward, number 3. The team we saw last week, Greg. Beaver at number 4. I think the Beaver Bobcats got a good chance in this bracket.
No doubt. Does Beaver have a good chance? So does Avonworth and so does Central Valley. Those 3 teams, they all beat each other for a 3-way tie up in the Western Hills Conference. So there's all kinds of opportunity out there within 3A. Monty Christian, we've seen them really run wild, but a game against Highlands earlier this year, Highlands took, I think it was a 1-score game in that one. So again, a lot of teams here. Central Valley has been here before into a Whitfield playoff. Avonworth has been to the championship each of the last 2 seasons. Certainly we can't, again, Avonworth, Beaver's a great team. Yeah, there's all kinds of options. I certainly like what Beaver has to offer, but maybe that's recency bias playing in there a little bit. I think Amani Christian's still probably the team dealing with their high-powered offense.
Yeah, Amani's got a ton of D1 potential on that club, per usual. I will say this about Elizabeth Forward, the number 3 seed. I've been preaching for a couple years now about their quarterback, Ryan Messina. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in this district, and that might prove itself in these Class 3A playoffs. I'd look out for the Warriors coming out of that conference.
Gentlemen, we are in Class 4A tonight. We'll skip over 4A and go to Class 5A. Got all my brackets here stapled together. We'll come back to 4A and end there since that's the game that we're featuring here tonight between Mars and Montour. But Class 5A, top seed Pine Richland, number 2 Upper St. Clair, number 3 Peters Township, and number 4 Woodland Hills. Kyle, Class 5A pretty much all year has been solid. It's probably the best bracket out of this.
Well, the best conference in this district is the Allegheny 6 Conference in Class 5A, and there are 4 teams. I think it's 5 teams. South Van making it, South Van made it. So 5 teams out of the Allegheny 6 are in. And Don Rebel at the Triple I High School Sports Network and I have talked about that a couple times on our roundtable this year. That conference is awesome. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Peters Township with a big win over Bethel Park last week. But those top 3 in that conference are really, I think, the cream of the crop other than Pine Richland in Class 5A. So Pine Richland gets the 1 seed, but Upper St. Clair's the 2, Peters Township is the 3, and Bethel Park is the 5. Look out for all of those teams. I think Bethel Park can beat Pine Richland if those 2 are to end up meeting up in a semifinal matchup, but they're also going to have to get by a pretty good Woodland Hills team that gets a bye.
Yeah, no doubt. Peters Township, right, champion still, so they have to get knocked off before anybody can say anything about 5A is called for. Again, I've seen Bethel Park 3 or 4 times this year. The Kyle's foot, that offense, when they are clicking, are as explosive as any team in the WPIAL. Woodland Hills has shown they're kind of back a little bit, looking back like some of those teams that were producing NFL players year after year. Oh yeah, Pine Richland sitting there as a 1 seed as well. I fear to make a prediction in this bracket because you don't want to Kyle's point. It's hard to pick against the Allegheny 6, but who's counting anybody out in this bracket? There's 5 or 6 teams in 5A that can win.
Well, Kyle, while you were finishing up your Wild Thing coverage down in Washington at the beginning of the season, Greg and I spent a lot of time in that conference. Pretty much every week. We were there at Upper St. Clair and Bethel Park, and we can definitely concur with that, Dave. It is a top conference and a top matchup.
Yeah, let's not forget about Upper St. Clair, too.
They can play defense. The Panthers can play defense.
Yes, they can.
Guys, Class 6A, Central Catholic North Allegheny. Next. In all due respect to Seneca Valley and Mount Lebanon, we don't have to look at the bracket to tell you about those games. They will be played next Friday night. North Allegheny, the number 2 seed, versus the number 3 seed, Mount Lebanon. Number 4, Seneca Valley, will play number 1, Central Catholic. Guys, if it's not Central Catholic and North Allegheny, get no disrespect to Mount Lebanon or Seneca Valley. I think most of the Whitfield would be shocked.
I saw Mount Lebanon a couple weeks ago. I don't know. They gave North Allegheny a game. I don't know that they'll do it to Art Walker in the playoffs. But yeah, I'd be shocked if it's not Central Catholic, North Allegheny. Again, no disrespect, but I think Mount Lebanon can give them a game. And I saw Seneca Valley against Mount Lebanon. I don't know. I haven't seen Central, so I have no idea on that game. But I've seen Mount Lebanon. That's a pretty good football team.
Yeah, no, and they're getting hot at the right time, and all it takes is 48 or 48 minutes. Yeah, right. I mean, a couple turnovers here, and those games get out of hand. Let's not count the Blue Devils out. But yeah, let's assume that things stay chalk as it would. I made the prediction probably 6 weeks ago. I said Central Catholic's going to get just like last year. Central Catholic's going to get the regular season game. NA's going to get the championship. I'm thinking in the same line of that. I predicted it weeks ago. I'm the same with that.
That brings us to our bracket and our game here tonight. Class 4A, which features the matchup in which Kyle have the call. I'll be along with him and Greg Smith as well on the Trib Live High School Sports Network, 7 o'clock. That's the number 7 seed. Mars visits right here at Montour High School, the number 2 seed. You can see Montour right behind us. We'll give you a quick shot of the stadium here. And the Mars Planets right behind us warming up here on the field. And the Montour Spartans on the far side getting ready for this playoff matchup tonight. Guys, in Class 4A, probably the most controversial bracket that came out last weekend. On this very site last Friday night, West Allegheny came in here and beat Montour. Montour was undefeated. Montour loses that game, and Montour gets the number 2 seed. Meanwhile, West Allegheny, they get the number 8 seed. They got to go on the road to travel all the way to Thomas Jefferson to play the number 1 undefeated Jaguars. A lot of discussion this week about how that all played out. There was a 3-way tie between TJ, Aliquippa, and let me back up. 3-way tie between Montour, Aliquippa, and West Allegheny, in which Aliquippa ultimately prevailed after the third tiebreaker, and then they reset it. When they reset it, West Allegheny had beaten Montour, so technically West A's number 2 out of this conference, but it didn't matter. Montour's the 2nd seed, Kyle. They're here tonight. They're hosting this playoff.
Montour's a wild card team. They're a 2 seed in this 4A bracket. That made a lot of people mad. I'm not saying right or wrong. West Allegheny beat them last week in an overtime game. That is a daunting task with Thomas Jefferson in any Bill Turpak game in the playoffs. I think this is going to has a chance at least. These two met up in the regular season. It was a 31-14 Montour win, but it was earlier in the year, and Mars is playing really good football since a very tough non-conference schedule. McKeesport the same way. Tough non-conference schedule. They're going to get a Bell Vernon team for 2-time defending champion. However, Bell Vernon's not the Bell Vernon that it's been in the last couple of years, and Aliquippa's a 4 seed. Aliquippa, who's made the championship for 16 straight seasons, is number 4 seed. Good luck.
We talked about how mad so many people were. I imagine most of the people who were not mad here tonight at Montour rooting on the Spartans. But yeah, we not to say we forgot about McKeesport, but there's the number 3 seed McKeesport, who's really good and a really challenging team to face. I know most of these teams have seen each other and have played each other and are familiar, but let's not count them out. You've got a heck of a game here tonight with, again, you mentioned the Mars team that is improving, getting better, and a Montour team that over the last 2 weeks has been the highest of highs for Aliquippa. And let's be honest, the lowest of lows, all due respect to West Allegheny, who them themselves have quite a task taking on reinvigorated Thomas Jefferson team, who's now a number 1 seed. And then to Kyle's point, by the way, Aliquippa sitting there before. Good luck to Trinity, the Hillers in Washington County, rooting for you, but I think Aliquippa might have that one. Boy, next week's going to be fun when we see who comes out of this gauntlet of week 1, per se, in 4A.
Class 4A is very, very tight, that's for sure. All right, guys, let's get to our picks. We'll go through each classification quickly. Give me your winner, who you think will end up being the champion. 1A, I'll start. Well, actually, I always go last because I break the tie. No, that's right. I go last because I always break the tie if we have a tie. So I'll wait. We'll start with you, Greg.
I think 1A, I think this is Clairton here to get back on top. As Kyle mentioned, the team that defensively has been as good as anybody across Western Pennsylvania. I like the Bears to get it done. I think they can finally get to Fort Cherry and end sort of their run.
Kyle?
I'm a huge Bears guy. Fort Cherry.
Yeah, so I got to break the tie here, right? Once again, between these two.
You don't have to break the tie.
You both went the Bears.
Well, you could go anyone else.
No,
I'm saying Fort Cherry.
You're saying Fort Cherry. Greg said Clarendon. So I'm a Mon Valley guy, so Clarendon's in my heart always. I love the Bears, but I live 5 minutes from Fort Cherry now, right? How can I not go against the Rangers and not see Fort Cherry wins 1A? Class 2A, guys, we'll start with you, Cal, first. Who do you like?
This one's super difficult. Give me Greg Smith's South Park Eagles in 2A.
Hey, blue, white, fight, go Eagles. South Park, that's an easy one for me.
I'm going to go my good friend Brian Alfera. I don't know if he's out there watching. He's an Elwood City cat. He actually lives here at Montour now. And he talks every week since week 1, Brian has, about the Elwood City Wolverines.
There you go.
And I cannot go against Elwood City, Brian. It's Elwood City winning Class 2A this year. He'll be happy to hear that. Guys, let's move over to Class 3A. Greg, who do you like there? Look at the teams. There's so many teams we're talking about today.
You know, this one, I'm going to go a little off. I think there are cracks in Amani, and I think that there are some teams in 3A that are playing well. I'm going to let my recency bias play in. I think the Beaver Bobcats get it done. They were so impressive last week, and against a good Avonworth team.
They're healthy now, too.
They're healthy. They've got playmakers. Their defense was buzzing around. I think they have a path forward. They get to see Avonworth potentially again next week, a rematch there. I think Beaver has all the momentum. I'm going to take the Bobcats as a 4 seed in the win.
I think a lot of people were a little bit down on Mark Lyons and the Central Valley Warriors early in the season. They've obviously rebounded well. Imani, like Greg said, I think they've got some cracks. I think they're maybe not very beatable, but I think there's teams out there. When we talked about Class 3, I talked about Ryan Messina. I saw that team a couple of weeks ago in Elizabeth Ford. The defense is stout. The offense can make plays, and Messina can make the big throws when he needs to. And Charlie Niggett, I think, is one of the better athletes in the entire district. Give me the Elizabeth Ford Warriors.
Where's my Bobcat, Greg? We should have brought it with us from last week. Let me put the Bobcat on. I like Beaver. Beaver wins Class 3A. Again, guys, we'll save 4A for last, because we also want to pick our game tonight as well between these two teams. So let's skip over to Class 5A. And Kyle, I think we're back to you. Who do you like in 5?
Who do I like in 5A?
Football fans, welcome to the 2024 WPIAL.
This is going to be a really fun 5A bracket. I think it's hard to go against Pine Richland, but I think there's a lot to be said for the testing that the Allegheny 6 Conference did to each of those teams all year. I'm going to go off the wall a little bit here. I want the Bethel Park Blackhawks to win 5A. Maybe not necessarily one, but I'll take them to win 5A. They'll have to, again, beat a good Pine Richland team in a semifinal matchup, plus Woodland Hills next week if they can get by tonight. In Upper St. Clair, maybe this other matchup of those two teams that Greg and I saw a couple weeks ago. I'll take the Blackhawks.
Officials is unacceptable behavior.
I
could be grounds
that Bethel Park Upper St. Clair game, that was Bethel Park's game that Upper St. Clair won on a last-minute heave, and that was a game that Bethel
any rebroadcast or reproduction of this
didn't
event
come into
without
form
the
until the
express
second half.
consent.
I think Upper St. Clair, that game
is
turned their
prohibited.
season. I think that was the one where they said, okay, our defense can win us games. I think Julian Dahlem and that offense is good enough. Give me Upper St. Clair. I think that's a team that is for destiny in 5A.
I'm going to go with Greg as well. I like the Panthers and Upper St. Clair in Class 5A. Guys, Class 6A, we already talked about it a little bit, but I'll start with you, Greg.
I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think that North Allegheny gets redemption here. Central, I don't know what it is, but I think we're going to have a same script as last year. Central in the regular season, NA in the championship. I'm going to take North Allegheny.
I'll take NA.
I'm going to go Central Catholic in Class 6A for this year's winner. Guys, let's talk about tonight's game between Montour and Mars. We'll start with you, Kyle. Who do you think here?
Well, again, it was 31-14 in the regular season, but Mars is playing a lot better of late. They are a little bit banged up on both sides, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a sour taste in the mouths of the Spartans this week. Give me Montour at home to move on to the semifinals.
Yeah, I would agree with Kyle. I think last week, the win against Aliquippa was more emblematic of this Montour team than the loss against West Say. Give me Montour in a bounce-back game, getting ready for next week.
Our Yinzer in chief, my best friend of 25 years, my brother like no other, Brian Carruthers. Oh, we didn't say that name here at Montour. The echo here at the stadium. He's a Montour grad, as is his wife, Marcy. I can't go against Montour and the Yinzer in chief. We went off. How'd we go off?